So it's well overdue that I do a particular segment like this where I feature two individuals who are on opposite sides of the conversation. And on the radio, um, I have done a segment called Red versus Blue. And sometimes it's been fun and insightful, other times it's been a hot mess. But I look forward to having this conversation with two gentlemen who I'm very proud to have on and have a conversation with because both of them are very passionate about politics, are passionate about the parties that they represent. You can see them anytime that there's a local election, a state election, or one like we have the presidential election that we're on the cusp of having. These two gentlemen get out, and I've seen the two of them actually have conversations on social media and cross swords a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're friendly towards each other. So we're going to attempt to do a red versus blue segment. Joining me is Myles Heger. Myles is more than just somebody who is on the radio. You hear him on Wednesday nights, the JV team with Jared Valenzola, but he also is somebody who is an elected official. I believe that he's a member of the Board of Health in East Bridgewater. Also, is a staunch individual when it comes to his party. Are you the chairman of the East Bridgewater Republican Committee, a town committee?
I am in my third term as chairman of the East Bridgewater Republican Town Committee. I was happy to be reelected after the presidential primary back in April, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
And then there's Edmund Toomey. Ed is a good friend. Ed is somebody who I always see out supporting candidates. Now, Ed, I'm surprised you haven't run for office unless you hold a secret office I don't know of. You've been
No,
appointed?
I've gone back and forth about it, but no. I don't know. It's just not my thing. I'm better at helping people out.
Now, are you affiliated with the Abington Democratic?
So, yeah, I used to be. I'm still a member of the Democratic Town Committee in Abington. I was the former chairman of it, but I since stepped down and passed the torch to the great Kevin Whalen. So I'm still involved actively, but not as much.
You mean the Kevin Whalen who screams, Muskegon?
That's the guy.
Yeah, he and Sean Riley, the great tandem when it comes to calling a Greenway football.
Absolutely.
Definitely missing that this fall. Well, missing any fall sports when it comes to high school sports. And of course, Myles, who has done the call of games on the South Shore as well.
Numerous times, and maybe getting the foot back in the door at some point. Not to give any breaking news here tonight, but we're working on something.
Well, you're a media mogul, and you're a guy who likes doing what you do, and that's why I want to have the both of you on and wanted to talk about a number of different races. We've got county races, we got state races, and then of course the big one, the cherry on top. Will Donald Trump get reelected? Will Joe Biden defeat him? We'll talk about that. And if you guys want also, we get a couple of ballot questions. You got the right to repair, and you also have a ranked choice voting. So where do you guys want to start off? Do you want to start off on the county level?
I'm open to anything, Kevin, and I'll just say before we get down in for the round of 12 here, I always enjoy talking with Ed, and who says that Democrats and Republicans can't get along? Because Ed and I do, and it's kind of like a Tip O'Neill, Ronald Reagan type relationship. Yep. Yeah, we might beat each other up during the day, but at the end of the day, we're friends and we're able to shoot the breeze and have a good time.
Absolutely. I know Myles at least since about 2012. And
yep.
Like you just said, we've always had a mutual respect for each other. I was around, I think I'm the age I am now. I'm 24. I think that's how old you were when I met you.
So, no, I would have been 22 in 2012.
Oh, all right.
Lines up with the 1990.
Very nice.
Well, all right, gotcha.
Let's start off. Let's start off on the county level, and there are two good county races. Let's start off with the county treasurer race. You've got incumbent Tom O'Brien, and he's taking on Republican challenger Karina Monpellis. What do you guys feel about this particular race? We'll start with you, Miles.
Well, first and foremost, I'll say that Plymouth County. Yes, there is a red lean towards Plymouth County. That being said, it's always favored incumbents, and when you have a last name like O'Brien, in Plymouth County, that's pretty heavily Irish. It's going to be a tough race for Karina. I think Karina is a wonderful person, and I think she could draw a little bit numbers wise, at least maybe, tighten it in Brockton. But it's going to be a tough race going against an incumbent. I certainly tip my cap to Karina. She's got quite a resume at a young age. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens on Tuesday. I do know it's an uphill battle anytime you run against an incumbent.
What do you think, Edmund? Do you feel as though that it's the incumbent, and it's if anything, it's in the bag for him, or do you feel that he has a bona fide challenger in Karina?
I think he has. I think he's got a 100% chance of winning. I really do. Like Miles said, especially with his last name O'Brien, he's an incumbent, and there's a reason that he keeps getting reelected, so he's doing something right. His opponent, on the other hand, I don't know much about her. I do think it's ironic that she has restore ethics on her signs, but yet has done multiple unethical things like put signs on properties that didn't belong to, that she didn't have permission to. OCPF had gone after her for not filing her reports in on time, and it's just, how can you be a treasurer but can't even perform a simple task like that? That's what I don't understand that. But I'm going to support. I'm supporting Tom O'Brien.
What do you think of in regards to the bring back ethics? What do you think of that, Miles?
Well, I do understand, I guess, maybe what her vantage point is, in the sense of there was a front page story in the Boston Globe, and I don't know too much about the story. I've only heard, through the campaign trail, the stump speeches, that there was, I guess, in a sense, a pay-to-play type of event. And again, not sure how credible it is, or, how much into it, is to be read. But yeah, it's certainly, if that's, what Karina's running with to restore ethics, I think maybe she could have maybe gotten that message out a little bit more than what it possibly has been. I know she brought it up in the debate the other night. But again, I'm not too privy to it, because it doesn't seem like it's almost maybe maybe it was, I don't know. I don't know much about it, but I know that's kind of been the one thing she's run with. And really, anytime you are running against an incumbent, dirt's going to be dug up, or things are going to be said. But if you don't have the proven facts and cement and foundation, it is kind of tough for the everyday voter to understand. And again, I've gotten to know Karina a little bit. She's spoken at our Republican town committee meetings. I did a cable show with her in East Bridgewater, and I don't know how much there is to this whole. I believe it was $41 million, and I don't know. I don't know how much of it is really factual per se.
Okay. Another county race that we're watching is for Plymouth County Commissioner, and my favorite forum to sit in on, because the first question that you want to utter is, well, what the heck does a county commissioner do? But there's a lot that goes into being a county commissioner, and I feel that we've learned that over the years. You got Greg Hanley, who is an incumbent seeking another term, followed by John Reardon. Now, these are two Democrats. John was previously on the county commissioners, and I believe during the time that John was was on the commission, he actually touted the idea of abolishing county government. And then there's Jared Valenzola. Jared is a Republican, hoping hoping to be the lighter version of Dan Pallotta, as he is told. What would you say about this particular race, Edmund?
Um, like you said, with John Reardon was a former county commissioner, and he did want to abolish county government when he was on that board. So I do find it again ironic that he's running for a seat he once wanted to abolish. Again, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know what he would bring differently. I think Greg Hanley's done a great job as county commissioner. He's certainly going to get my vote. I don't know much about Valenzola, him or any of his things, but I do know about John Reardon doing that, and that just to me is just laughable. But
Myles, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's kind of surprising. It's funny that, in a sense, Ed and I have really, I guess, we haven't beaten each other up on these first two races so far. But yeah, one thing that concerns me about Jack Reardon is the fact that when he was on the board previously, he wanted to do away with county government. That is a little bit concerning. But I can tell you right now, and this is a tip of the cap, really, to Dan Pallotta, who is going out, but also Greg Hanley, and Sandra Wright, and even Tom O'Brien. The $90 million loan that the Plymouth County government got from the federal government, that they kind of told Charlie Baker to step off. They're not giving the money back. They've done a great job with that. Going town to town, giving money to the towns. And I know Dan Pallotta was heavily involved with that. And Dan's stepping aside. And, I've known Jared. So just like Ed and I have known each other now for about 8 years, I've known Jared for about 12 years. Jared and I have been very tight, going to many different, Republican events, but also at the same time overlapping at Bridgewater State University. Jared's passionate. Jared's done an incredible job in his hometown of Rockland, giving back to that community, serving on numerous school building projects. He's in the Knights of Columbus. I know for a fact if Jared gets elected, and one thing that works out is the fact that he's the lone Republican on the ballot. But I know Jared will give 100% to county government, and will certainly take many of the issues that are going on in Plymouth County right now, right to force and go full bore into them. And so I'm very excited. I'm very happy that Jared decided to run, and he's the Republican nominee for county commissioner, because I think he's got a lot to give back to county government, and he's not somebody who wants to do away with county government. I think you'd be surprised, a Republican who's touting for more government in a sense. But I think Plymouth County government is a tool that we need, and we should continue to rely on, because they do a lot of good for Plymouth County. And I think there's many goals Jared has going forward that I know he has spoken about, that I think are very beneficial. And Jared's kind of unofficial but official campaign catchphrase is "Make Plymouth Rock Again," and I think it's kind of catchy.
I like that. I actually do. It's interesting, and I'm gonna kind of compare them between not only the previous race we were talking about, the Plymouth County Treasurers, but Plymouth County Commissioners race. Being a Republican and trying to run in this county, the one difficult task that you have, and I've said it repeatedly, and that is gaining votes. You probably cannot win the city of Brockton,
No.
but the idea isn't to win. The idea is to get as many votes as possible. Whether you get 20, 25, 30, 35%, that could be just enough if you're able to have your base out in the the suburban areas, like your Hanovers, like your Plymouths, if you can get people to vote for you in those communities and at least have a dent in Brockton, I think you have a chance. I think Jared has a chance, but his uphill battle will be what the numbers will be on election night in Brockton. Same with Karina. What do you guys
Well,
think?
the one thing quickly, that I realize and recognize in this county commissioner race, there's two Democrats in this race. There's one Republican. Uh, you know, the everyday voter, they're going in and they might not read the line too quick. They might just go and circle one, and there is a good possibility some people pick one Democrat, and the Republican Jared, for the simple fact of they like balanced government, not thinking. And the hardcore Democrats are probably going to go in and vote for both Democrats in this race. The hardcore Republicans are going to go in and vote for just Jared. It'll be interesting to see where it all shakes out, personally.
Edmund, what do you think? Do you think that it could be a split the vote type of a scenario if you are a Plymouth County Commissioner, knowing that there are two well-known Democrats and you're a Republican? Can you be able to wean some votes out of that?
I think you can. I think there'll be a Democrat and a Republican. It'll be. I mean, I think that Valenzuela, I think, might get it, and I think it would then be between Greg and John, because I think this time, especially in this area of Plymouth County, it's very Republican red. I'm almost positive Donald Trump won Plymouth County back in 2016, so I do think that there will be people voting for Valenzuela just because there's an R next to his name, and that doesn't mean I'm not discrediting Jared as a candidate. The real part about it is that I think people will vote for him because he has an R next to his name. And the same with the Democrats too. I mean, I would vote for he had a D next to his name. So it's the same, the same thing.
And again, if you're just tuning into our segment here, we get the two young gentlemen who are passionate about politics, representing the parties that they like to assist, whether it's out for elections or get signatures. We have Myles Heger, who is the chairman of the East Bridgewater Republican Town Committee, and we have Ed Toomey, who is a former chair of the Abington Democratic Town Committee. And we're talking about the some of the races that are going to be on the ballot come November 3rd. Now, knowing that your respective, what's interesting is that you both share a state representative. That's Allison Sullivan. Allison is not opposed, but there are other state rep races. I'll throw out a few, and if you want to talk about a particular race, we can do that for a couple of moments before we move on to the ballot questions. And actually, also, let's not forget a couple of state Senate races. We'll see if you want to talk about either one of those.
Yep.
So we get the 12th Plymouth District state rep seat. Kathy Lenatra is your incumbent, opposed by Republican challenger Summer Schmeling. We get the 6th Plymouth District state rep race. That's your incumbent is Josh Cutler. He's a Democrat, opposed by a Republican challenger Tatiana Semirog. 1st Plymouth District state rep Matt Muratori. He's the incumbent, taking on a Democratic challenger Stephen Michael Palmer. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this during the break, but let's not forget Dave DeCoste, representing the 5th Plymouth District. He's an incumbent, and he has a Democratic challenger in Emmanuel Doctor. Which one of these races is enticing to you guys? We'll start with you, Myles. Is there one of these particular races or a couple of them that you're watching?
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned it. The 6th Plymouth District stands out to me, the 12th Plymouth District, and the 5th Plymouth District. Obviously, Dave DeCoste is a good friend of mine, being on the JV team with us on Wednesday nights. But really, the one race, that's a tough district. Dave's district is tough. It's very, very middle of the road. And then you go to a district like Josh Cutler's district, the 6th Plymouth District, and that's a conservative district. That was a Republican seat for over 100 years until Josh got in back. I believe he got in 2010 because at the time Dan Webster was having some issues. That race stands out to me. Hanson is a very conservative town, actually one of the most, just above East Bridgewater, as a red town here in the state. They've given the highest percentage to Scott Brown in 2010. Hanson's a very conservative town, and the amount of signs that Tatiana's had in Hanson really stands out. I know signs don't vote, but Tatiana has hit almost every door in Hanson, every door in Pembroke, and finishing up in Duxbury. She's planning on being done, I believe, this weekend. She's hit a lot of doors. That's a playbook on a Jeff Deals, playbook. When Jeff beat and unseated Alan McCarthy in 2010, that's what Jeff did for over a year. He worked and hit the pavement. And if I was Josh Cutler, I would be very, very nervous right now, because Hanson's a conservative town. Pembroke is not as conservative as they used to be, but they are certainly on the Republican-leaning side. Duxbury has kind of done a 360, a 180 flip, and they're more blue now. But again, if Tatiana blows them out in Hanson, has a decent win in Pembroke, and can close the gap in Duxbury, Josh Cutler's got to be very, very nervous.
Okay. Edmund, what do you think? Is there a particular race or two that interests you that you're watching or following or you've heard about?
Yeah, I've been watching the Cutler race a little bit because I know Josh, and it seems that his opponent is running on the, he's against the police, and he voted to defund the police, and it's not true. I read Cutler came out with a statement and said exactly what it was. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head exactly, but he clarified that. But then you have people that are calling him, they try to dehumanize him on this on one of those town Facebook pages, and I see a lot of he's a socialist. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, really, really, he's a socialist. It's just they're just looking at ways to try to dehumanize this guy. That's the way I'm just seeing it. I don't know if anyone else sees the stuff on those pages, but I don't know.
I try to keep a close eye on some of the local pages, but I'm not on as many of them. I use the say Whitman Pride or the Hanson Connect. I use those pages as a way to get business in the door for my day job. But I do pay attention to some of the political things. But I will say, Ed brings up, the fact that they're calling Josh Cutler a socialist. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a ridiculous name. But, when you have a picture in front of, I believe it's the Chava de Guerra flag there, it certainly doesn't help causes for Josh Cutler. But also, one thing you got to tip your cap to Tatiana on is the fact that she's gotten many of the police endorsements in the district. And again, if I was Josh Cutler, the fact that the police are endorsing my opponent when I've been in there for over, I believe he's in his fourth term now, I'd really be kind of, sweating it out here.
Yeah, but that's what she's getting all the cops endorsements and stuff because she's saying that he's defunding the police. So of course the cops are going to support her. It's not true.
Well, Ed, it goes to a national, all politics is local, as Tip O'Neill used to say. But you look nationally, and many of these, left-leaning cities are practically burning to the ground, and Democrats aren't trying to, put out the flames. They're, in a sense, almost.
That doesn't mean he's defunding the police, though. That's the thing. I mean, it's silly. He didn't. This is the way I see it.
And just so for folks who are, this is about the law enforcement reform bill that was put forth and that there was discussed and has been the fodder for conversations during debates as to whether there is a movement to have police be certified or if there is a movement to reallocate funding from police to maybe social services. Good. I like you both mixing it up there and doing it in a certain way to go back and forth. That's great. We got a few minutes left here. in this
Time
conversation.
flies when you're having fun, Kevin.
I know, right? And now I don't know if you want to touch on any of the state senate races. We got John Keenan, and he's got independent Alex Mendez running against him, and then you got Pat O'Connor, who is a Republican state senator. He's got Meg Wheeler, who is challenging him.
I'll just quickly say on Pat O'Connor, for what I know, from an outside vantage point, Pat's a pretty middle of the road, moderate type of guy. When you're going in to replace Bob Headland, Kevin, you got big shoes to fill.
You do.
And and I think Pat's done a good job being a state senator and not a political pundit, for the Republicans. Pat's a moderate, middle of the road guy, and he's in a right-leaning district. I know some of those towns, the Scituate, Cohasset, and even Hull, I believe, are a little tough, but Pat's done the job, and so it'll be interesting to see where that one shakes out.
And I also forgot to mention Sue Moran, who actually was the one she won Vinnie DiMacedo's the seat that Vinnie DiMacedo left, and you got Jane McMahon, who is taking her on. I think it's the Barnstable Plymouth.
Yes, and you think back, Vinnie replaced a Democrat in that seat, Terry Murray, who was Speaker of the Speaker of the Senate, I believe. That's going to be a tough one, I think, for Jay. I mean, it does lean conservative in some of those towns. I don't know how many bridges Jay has burned over the years, so I don't know if that's going to hurt him or not. A town like Falmouth is pretty blue. Plymouth is not red like it used to be. It's really, about 50-50 now. Hard to say. I mean, if the turnout's huge and there is a Republican push, which is possible, hey, Jay might have a shot. We'll see. He's got name recognition from his state run a couple of years ago. It's going to be interesting on that race. From what I've seen, I think Sue Moran's a little bit out there. She's a little bit of a left-wing, radical in a sense. So, but Jay's kind of hard to the right, so it's going to be interesting in that one.
Eddie, would you want to weigh in on any of the state senate races?
I don't know much about. I mean, John Keenan's running, and I'm going to be supporting him, but I haven't been focusing on him or his opponent really.
Okay. And again, if you are just tuning in, we're doing a little bit of a red versus blue segment here with the Myles Heger representing the GOP, the Republicans, and Ed Toomey, who is representing the Democrats. And we're talking about some of the races, the local races, working our way up to the big one, the granddaddy. Ballot questions. Is there a particular ballot question that interests you guys, whether it's the right to repair? And I know that's an initiative that I think still confuses people, or the ranked choice voting. Edmund?
Again, I don't know much about the ballot questions. What I do know though is I thought right to repair was either passed or didn't pass. I remember in I believe 2006, didn't they already?
2012, and just to give you, this is about the telematics. This isn't it's your mechanical data, and you have to there are ports that are in your vehicle. Now what's happening is it's all wireless, and so what this is for is because of that wireless information, your independent mechanics are trying to have the ability to wirelessly access data in your vehicle, and they don't have that access under the old right to repair.
Gotcha.
Right. So for me, I work at a body shop. I work at one of those small, local repair shops, and both questions really are head spinning. You could spend a whole day on each and still not really get too far. But for me, I'm a yes on one for the simple fact of I'm for the little guy. I think that's something that Ed and I probably can agree on. We're both for the little guy. The Democrat Party of old was for the little guy. The Republicans nowadays, I think, are for the little guy. But questions, it's totally funny. Questions you don't think that you'd get along with some people on or agree with because you might not agree, on candidates, whatever the case may be. Questions, it's really a common sense thing. And like I said, I'm for the little guy here. I'm for the little shops being able to have the ability to do the repairs on these newer cars and not going to the dealership. I've seen it firsthand working in a body shop. So I'm yes on one. Question two, ranked choice voting. Um, you could pull your hair around. I've done a couple of different shows on it, and I've gotten to learn about it. And I know the people who are in favor of yes on two are basically, they say they want to get big money out of local races, and from what I understand, the people who are funding the ranked choice voting are spending a lot of big money on this question. So I'm against question two, ranked choice voting. You've seen it in places like Maine, where it cost a sitting congressman their seat, even though they had more votes, more first place votes than the challenger. And you've seen a lot of cities also kind of actually do away with ranked choice voting that they had passed over the years. It's not a good system, and it's gonna cause trouble and cause problems for the local town clerks. And my town clerk in East Bridgewater, Sue Gilpatrick, I don't want to make her life any more miserable. And a question like this would really, really make her job and her staff's job a total headache. So I'm yes on one, no on two.
This is what I would say on both of those. I had a situation for question one myself, having an issue with my vehicle. I had a check engine light, took it to the dealer. Dealer was going to charge me a significant amount of money to make the repair. I went to an independent dealer. I actually took it back to the place where I bought it. They actually have a shop there, and it was kind of tied into my purchase of the vehicle, and it cost me a quarter of what it would have
Yep.
cost me. I would have had to buy the amount of money that I would have spent to fix it at a dealership. I probably could have went out and got a new used vehicle. I could have updated my vehicle buying a used vehicle for that amount. So that's why I'm kind of a little. I would more lean, although I try to be neutral, lean towards it because I understand the dynamics of it. And the thing I'll say as far as with Miles, what Miles said, to me it's like old school arithmetic versus Common Core math. Does that make sense?
That was good.
Yeah. So
It's essentially rounds of voting, right?
yeah.
Yeah. It's just it seems a little confusing. I mean, I can't say I'm for or against it yet. I don't. I got to read more into it, but yeah, it seems a little confusing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, we're at that time of our of the conversation for us to get to probably the reason why a lot of people this past week did a significant amount of early voting. That is,
Yep.
who do we want to be president at the start of 2021? Miles, I'll let you take the floor for this one.
Well, I think viewers can already see who I am happily supporting. I just, for me, until COVID came in, things were going incredible. You talk about American prosperity. You talk about the economy. You talk about unemployment being low. Folks have been so successful under President Trump over the last almost 4 years now. And, I know Ed and I are probably going to disagree here on this one, but for everything that's been thrown at the president time after time after time throughout his tenure, I call him Teflon Don. Nothing sticks to him. The president's done an incredible job. Even, I know one of Ed's talking points is probably going to be COVID, but you look at the timeline of events, the president has been on top of this since day one. Like he says, and I'm on the board of health in my town, so of course you have to have a little bit of understanding, compassion about it. One death is one too many, and I mean, it's hit everybody hard. It's hit families hard. Again, the president's record of accomplishment over 4 years has been incredible, and I just I give him another term for the simple fact of his work. But also the Democrats had plenty of time to come up with a great candidate, and all they get is a gentleman who, again, I don't think he's fully there. I had a my grandfather suffered from Alzheimer's, and you see the signs in a guy like Joe Biden. He's 78. You had 4 years to get somebody capable of running against Donald Trump, and that's what they got. And it's just, so for me, choice is easy. I'm with President Trump. I'm cautiously optimistic about Election Day. I think the Electoral College could be tight, but look at this guy. He's been out campaigning now for the last couple of weeks with events that have 20, 30,000 people. He's done incredible. I tip my cap to him. I hope I have the energy he has when I'm 74, because I don't know how he does it.
Ed, your turn. Give me your thoughts on president.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the president, as a lot of you know. It's funny, Myles brought up the rallies and everything. The guy holds a rally and can't even get proper buses to bus everybody in. I mean, people were left in the freezing cold, waiting for this guy, and that's what they were left with. So he really does care about his supporters, I think. But even like Myles said, like, coronavirus is a talking point, and I don't think that he's done anything. I don't say anything. I don't think that Donald Trump has been completely proactive in all this. I don't blame him for the coronavirus, but he's certainly, I think, been neglectful towards it. I mean, this is just this guy, how this guy operates. You know, I don't know if you guys watched the 60 Minutes interview with Leslie Stahl. So she had asked Trump about wearing a mask, and then she brought up apparently how he called Dr. Fauci and a couple of other health officials idiots. And Trump later did say, well, he's been wrong a lot. I like him, but he's been wrong. And to me, that's just not appropriate leadership skills to talk about a fellow colleague like that, and especially during this time. And I know a lot of people say, you know, he does say to people to wear masks, and, you know, he's never suggested that you shouldn't wear it. But when he suggests that this disease is some sort of effort that's, you know, carried out by the Democrats to sabotage his name, he's giving people that are skeptical about this disease a platform to not adhere to guidelines and protocols that doctors and scientists are asking us to. And I think that that's a problem. Whereas Joe Biden, in his campaign ads, has said, we will still wear masks. We will, you know, do this and that, about getting a proper ventilators and everything. And I'm just not seeing that a lot with Trump. He's saying it, but then when you ask him how, he can't come up with it.
Well, just a couple of things too. You know, Ed says he kind of thinks that Trump was not on it on response to the virus, but back in January, the president called for flights from China to be stopped, and the Democrats laughed at him. And they were, you know, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were in the streets in Chinatown inviting people to come in and come have a good time. And so that's one thing. But, you know, also the CBS interview, on the 60 Minutes interview with Leslie Stahl, let's be frank here. The president has had 92% negative coverage since being elected. The guy doesn't stand a chance with the media. And it's unfortunate that, yeah, hey, maybe people say, you know, people on the left say that the president is brash, or he shouldn't tweet as much, he shouldn't Facebook. When you get 92% negative coverage against you, you have to find other inlets and channels to get your message out. And yeah, you know, I wish the president would be a little bit more polished at times, but he has to do what he has to do. And tweeting and getting information out via social media and Twitter and Facebook platforms, I think he's done incredible. And he's reinvented the wheel and reinvented himself time after time after time, you know, to get his message out and to really catch on and latch on with the people. And again, there's no way. You see Joe Biden today. I'm watching one of his press conferences for a little bit because, hey, I'm fair. I like to see what the other side's saying. And Joe Biden, he's up there and he's angry and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's part of the cognitive decline, I believe, with him. And again, I have nothing bad to say. Joe Biden he's that kind of, you know, he's that funny uncle that you want, but you feel bad for him. I feel bad for the guy genuinely that the Democratic Party and his wife are putting him up there, and you've got Kamala Harris waiting in the wings, which, Joe is angry on stage, and Kamala is just not she's not somebody I want leading this country. She's got that arrogant type of, swagger when she speaks. So it's tough for me. I can't.
Donald Trump doesn't have any of that, Miles. He doesn't have
Listen,
any of that arrogance.
the president is brash. The president is obnoxious at times, but you think about it, people are talking about the president and his. I've been to a couple of his rallies, one up in New Hampshire in February. I just met his son Don Jr. yesterday. There were about 500 people at an event for Don Jr. in New Hampshire yesterday. Yeah, the president's obnoxious, but you talk about those events for weeks and months afterwards about how exciting it was and the people you met. And I'm not going to apologize for being a supporter of Donald Trump.
Do you want to counter real quick before we wrap up? And because the last thing I'm going to ask you is, do you feel that your respective party candidate is going to win, and what you feel the percentage points will be, and will this turn into turmoil depending on the victory? Edmund, you want to kind of counter?
I won't be surprised either way if Trump wins or if Biden wins. I think it could go 50-50. In Plymouth County, I think Trump will win, definitely. But in the country, I won't be surprised. Yeah, I won't be surprised either way.
Myles?
I'll be cautiously optimistic. In the past, again, this is my third presidential cycle as a chair of the Republican Town Committee in East Bridgewater. You could say I was always wet behind the ears, excited about, whether it was Mitt Romney in 2012 or even, the president wasn't my first choice in 2016. But I thought Mitt Romney was going to run away with it. And Ed and I, that was the year we met each other because Ed's father was running against Jeff Deal. And, looking back now, I mean, Obama had that contingent and that campaign team around him. There was no beating him. And Mitt Romney, horrible presidential campaign back then. And I'm glad he wasn't the president, because if he did beat Obama, we probably wouldn't have Donald Trump. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm very nervous about many of the things that kind of are going around this cycle, but I think that the president will win. If he doesn't, then I think it's going to be a long, dragged out process. It'll be very interesting, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that the president's done a good job to get and done the work to get a second term.
Well, I want to thank you both for having a good, constructive viewpoint of respective candidates. And even if you had opposing views, you both did a fantastic job in being able to at least counter the conversation and do it in a respectful manner. And
absolutely, I want to do this again. This was great.
I'm down. Yeah,
you definitely
I'm on board for it.
Well, I've already said to the both of you that I think that you both should do. We should talk about having you do another form of media, whether you do a podcast or you do a radio show with me, or you do a cable show. It would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to thank you. So Myles Heger and Ed Toomey have been my guests for this segment. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for this segment.
Thank you,
Kevin, for having me.